Hey y'all, it's David Ducker
And Mike Lopez.
coming back at you. And today we're going to be telling an RPG horror story. Mike will be regaling us with the tale of the campaign that would not die. So Mike, what is this horror story you wanted to tell me?
So back when I lived in Ottawa, when I was in university, I joined a group.
That's the capital of our great nation, by the way.
Happy Canada Day.
Happy Canada Day, that's right. We just had fireworks the likes of which you would not believe. They were level 15 fireworks. Believe that with your mind.
So it took 3 hours to resolve them.
It took 3 hours.
The whole session.
Roll for each firework explosion.
Yeah, so I joined.
Plus 2 amazement. Plus 3 amazement. Plus 1 wonder.
So I joined this group in Ottawa.
Okay.
I hadn't played since a year or two earlier in high school. And
Dry spell.
I had just broken up with this girl that I shouldn't have been dating at all, because that's what happens in freshman year. And I was bored. So I found this group on Facebook and I joined them, and we started out with this low-level campaign, and it was really fun. I had this little piece of shit that was a rogue that everyone in the party kind of hated but tolerated because he mostly wasn't a problem. Not like the piece of shit that steals from the fellow party members and whatnot. He was a lawful evil character, but I did lawful evil right, not cartoon evil.
Yeah. You kept the party together?
Well, I didn't keep them together, but they stayed together.
You stayed in the party, though.
For the longest time.
Yeah.
But after a while, tensions grew, and he naturally had to leave.
Okay.
So I introduced this other character, a paladin, my first mistake.
There's nothing wrong with a paladin as a concept. Perhaps with the rule set you were using, they didn't. The rule set might not have allowed you to execute a good paladin concept. What system were you using, by the way?
3.5.
I'm shocked. I'm shocked that you're having a horror story about Dungeons and Dragons. Ooh, I just said it.
But things were still okay at that point. The paladin character Drevin was good for the most part at the time.
He had to be. He's a paladin.
Of high quality as a character. He was fairly fleshed out. We had an interesting gimmick where this demon was trapped inside him.
That's my word.
Yeah,
You can't use
Dave.
gimmick. That's my word.
Dave gave me his word. It's like herpes.
I'm so sorry. I didn't know that. It's an analogy.
So we had an interesting thing going on there, where the demon would make him do some things, and of course he'd feel terrible about them. But eventually the demon left. He was cured. Unfortunately, when you take one of the prime conflicts out of a character, you either have to reinvent that character or find that you get tired of that character. And that's what happened with me.
I just did a video on jumping the shark, where I discussed that kind of concept a bit.
So, as I got tired with that character, the campaign moved on. We started at level 15 when he came in, but we...
15?
Yeah, well, we'd been playing for a while. So we hit level 15 and he came in, and things were still running fairly smoothly, but as any experienced die-20 style game player knows, as you get above level 10, even before that, things really start to slog. And slog they did. We got into epic levels, and a lot of the things that make interesting challenges in low levels, there's a lot more diverse types of enemies that can be a challenge to you. A lot more, you could deal with traps. Man, my character could have walked through any trap at that point. There's nothing interesting about it. It's not a conflict.
Well, to be fair, traps are rarely interesting at any level.
But anything that would have presented a challenge at a lower level obviously doesn't present a challenge at that level, and things start to really become a little repetitive. And we got to a very formulaic place, and every session went this way. Address the current problem in the series of problems that are all interlinked. Find that problem, which is inevitably an enemy deity. Kill it.
Wait, an enemy deity?
An enemy deity. Oh, I forgot to mention.
How many deities did you kill?
We were elevated to godhood.
Oh, see, that's a big deal.
Yes, it is a big deal. And as we were elevated to godhood, we were put at odds with, this was in Eberron, the evil gods of Eberron, and
all gods in Eberron are in fact evil.
And
but yeah, this is a big deal. He was raised up. There's only one man in history, or perhaps none, that have been raised up to godhood successfully.
Yeah. So as we were raised up to godhood, the dark powers of Eberron became our nominal enemies,
Which
led
is
by
all the powers of Eberron.
led by yet another one that the GM had created. And there was nothing inherently wrong with the story,
Except that it was set in Eberron.
with the story going this way, but the way it developed, the gameplay became very stagnant. And though I was a paladin, and we had a rogue, and a different type of rogue, and a monk, and a fighter thing, all of us ended up basically playing the same sort of way. It always became, begin the big combat of the session. Everyone does their ridiculous number of melee attacks on their turn. Each turn takes, each individual player's turn takes forever to resolve.
Mm-hmm.
Go around, you spend about 2 hours in combat, and then end the session. And as most people can probably tell you, 2 hours in one combat, it's not good.
It's a long time.
Yeah. So it became really hard to remain emotionally invested between my character's main source of conflict being gone, and the gameplay becoming very formulaic, very repetitive. At some point, when every epic level feat means next to nothing, and you're gaining 20 levels a session because you just killed a god, and I know that goes against the rules, you're not supposed to gain one level, it becomes really hard to care anymore. And the problem was, it was about 2 months before the end of the campaign when I realized I didn't care anymore. And, the people I was playing with were all very good friends, and I have certain qualms about walking out on friends' games, especially when they're approaching the end. So I wrote it out, bored as heck, trying to stay awake through the last couple months, and
roll versus sleep.
And we got to the end, and it's really sad when you hit something that should be a dramatic ending, and you're glad that it's there. As some of those characters had been around for 2 years of my life, and it should have been at least a little sad to see them go. But at that point, I was so tired of everything that was going on that there's nothing, no emotional attachment.
Now that's a long time though. What were you doing? Weekly sessions?
Yeah,
weekly
sessions
long were
with. They would usually run probably 6 to 10, maybe 6 to 11. We did take a recess in the summer.
So approximately 400 hours.
I have no idea. And it's hard to say. Some of them would start later than others because people would be late, or people would have trouble getting to task.
Yeah.
It just
when stagnancy sets in and boredom steps in, that's when the chatter comes out.
Yeah.
I just did that video as well. Problem players, the chatter, and how to shut him up. I believe I can shut him up, son. So yeah, you first of all, you were playing in Eberron with their rule set. So you had problems from day one. You might not have known about them.
In the early days of the campaign, Eberron was fine for that campaign. It worked well. It was just Eberron isn't made for high level play, and
that might be a benefit of Eberron.
3.5 isn't made for high level play, no matter how much they tell you. Yeah, and once you get past a certain point and everything starts to play the same way, it doesn't matter where it's set.
So let's try to boil it down. What was, if you want the root of the evil, what was the real problem with the game? Because I've done a lot of these videos, And very often the problem is selfishness. But was that the problem here? I think that you might have had a different problem. So please elaborate.
I really think the issue is that in die 20, high-level play becomes increasingly inflexible. If you look at the epic level spells and the way epic level characters progress, I mean, the rulebook was written for 3.0 and never actually updated for 3.5. Not that that would necessarily make a difference, but it basically promotes the rocket tag element of D&D to the extreme. There's nowhere else to develop. Yes, you can make some very strong healing spells, some very strong defensive spells, but basically they just give you another rocket you can survive.
So you believe the problem was mechanical and inherent in the system?
I believe that that's the root of it. I really think that it became difficult for the GM to find good ways to challenge us. There might have been some of his own limitation in that he relied on the mechanics to challenge us, but I think that was a very big part of it.
Okay. And I can agree with that. I'll agree the problem probably was mechanical, because I'm somewhat familiar with that rule set, and I've not only seen problems, I've actually had problems. But Mike, what would the solution have been? How could he have made it fun or kept it fun?
I really think a shorter lifespan would have been key. Even if you get into those epic levels, if you only spend a little bit of time there, you ever stayed in a pool for 2 hours?
I have.
Yeah. When you first get in the pool, you're splashing around, it's fun, it's cool, cools you off from the outside. But if you stay in there for 2 hours, you become really prudy, you're tired, you're dehydrated, it gets old. You dip your feet into that.
The longer that we're in the pool, though, the drunker she got.
Oof. That's for a different video. So yeah, you dip your feet in, you take a few steps into that epic level pool. Instead of fighting every single god, you fight maybe 2 gods.
Which 2?
The big bad and his right hand.
Excellent.
That's what I would do. Maybe together, maybe separate. I don't know, but it keeps that high level gameplay from getting old, from getting repetitive. Maybe when you first get into epic levels, having 10 attacks or whatever on your turn is novel, and you want to do it. But, once you do that for 6 sessions or 10 sessions, you're not going to want to do it anymore.
Okay. So what do you think the moral of the story is? If you could take all of the lessons learned and boil them down into the moral of the story, what do you think that would be?
I think it would be understand when to end things naturally. There was quite clearly a lot of dissatisfaction around the table long before.
How many people were still happy by the end?
I'm not sure.
You're not sure anyone was?
No, I'm not sure
how
who
many
was.
were
Okay.
happy.
There were 5 players and a GM.
Okay.
I know at least 2 of the other players had grown dissatisfied.
Excellent. So we got 3 down. They're not down with it.
Yeah. So you have to understand that, and maybe it's not your plan to make it happen that way, but if you can make it happen so it ends a little faster when people are getting dissatisfied, or if you can understand that having things go a certain way for too long will make people dissatisfied when you're making your plan, it can go a long way to keeping people happy at your table.
Yeah, and I'd say the key word is plan. Just plan ahead. This is not a problem I'm ever likely to have as a GM.
Because he's obsessed with planning.
Well, not only that, but because my plans are always very short anyway. I try to run each campaign for only about a year. And I wouldn't run any longer than that. Not for the next 5 years or so. So I would say, in particular, because you were bringing up the mechanics, make sure your plan includes your mechanics as well. I'm doing a series on Solar Wars, which is a campaign I'm building right now. I haven't done the video on mechanics yet, but when I do that, I'm going to be talking about, I know we're going for 50 sessions. I know we're using these rules. I have to make sure these rules are still fun 50 sessions from now, so I have to anticipate how much XP the players get and put into their characters. And same thing with NPCs, I have to some degree, anticipate them. So when I'm looking at our system, which is GURPS, I can see the progression. It's also a 1 to 20 progression, but it's kind of like averaged at 10. So, I can build around it. I mean, GURPS or most point buys are so versatile. We're not going to have a power creep problem, or we probably won't. We shouldn't. Especially if I can keep track of the XP properly, which is a failing of God of Dameron in some aspects. So, I'm going ahead and I'm planning this out ahead of time. So from a mechanical perspective, that's there. If it were class-based, if I were using 3rd edition, and I saw the 1 to 20 build, and I knew I had 50 sessions to fill up, I'd have to plan for that. Or I would say to myself, do I want to go to level 20? Will it be fun at level 20? And maybe pick the maximum level and then plan for that. Maybe I only pick level 10. So we're going to level up like every 5 sessions. By the 50th session, we hit level 10. No problems.
And going along with that, in this campaign I'm discussing, there's a clear breaking point where we become deities, the characters do. At that point, perhaps it's time to sit down and say, perhaps we should change things over.
Yeah.
Use a system that's more designed for this sort of story. Mm-hmm. And there are systems that are suited to that.
Even D20, if you look at Mutants and Masterminds, which to some very small degree is compatible with 3rd edition, especially their 2nd edition is compatible with their 3rd edition. But, you can jump systems, absolutely. Or you can jump the shark. Again, my Jump the Shark video talks about a lot of those concepts as well. So I think that's everything. I feel bad that you had something you loved and it went on and on and on until you hated it. It's like the gimmick where Homer Simpson is gone down to Gehenna, and the devil's feeding him donuts until he hates donuts.
Except Homer will never hate donuts.
Well, yes, Homer is the man who will play Eberron until he's 90 years old.
Except it's donuts, so it's more like,
600 pounds.
I was just thinking a good setting.
Oh, this man is throwing jabs into Eberron. And they will never return from that place.
I sold my Eberron campaign setting for $10.
He sold it to my brother who will never learn. So I think that's his horror story. That's how you can avoid it. Was there anything else you wanted to add in closing, Mike?
No, that's good.
Okay. Everybody avoid Eberron and try to have a good time at the table. And until next time, have a good day.